Welcome to Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is all about writing checks, balancing your checkbook, reconciling your cash register, and it's a skill that I didn't know how to do when I first got out onto my own. I know that you're probably not going to have to write a whole lot of checks, but if you're a business, oftentimes you will. And I still write checks to the Girl Scouts when they come around. So it may not be a skill that you'll need every single day, but it is a nice skill to have, to at least know how to write a check, to read a check. So let's get started. Okay, so money flows in and out of your account, and the way that it flows in and out is through a transaction. So transaction can be money put in or taken out. It's just any activity that changes the amount of money in your account. Deposits are the funds going into the account. So that would be like if you get your checks deposited into your bank account from your employer, or if someone sends you money. Deposit ticket is what you need to make a deposit. So often at the bank, in order to put money into your account, you'll have to fill out a deposit ticket. I just did an example of one through Bank of America. Here's an example of a deposit ticket where you write in all of your cash here, all of your checks there, and then you tell them how much you're depositing. And if you're getting any money back, you'll take that out here, and then they know that that's what you're depositing. You have to pick if you want it in checking or savings. So there's an example of one. So credit versus debit. Credit is increasing your money, so that would be deposits. So like direct deposit, probably a lot of you get your money directly deposited into your account from your employer, so you don't even have to go to the bank. Cashing a check, that money is going to go into your account. Debit, so many of you probably have a debit card. That's taking money out, so it's decreasing your funds. A withdrawal is where you're literally taking out the money. It could be writing a check because that money is going to come out, and then obviously your debit card. So the bank issues what's called the bank memo, and then since credit is increasing your account, debit is decreasing your account, they'll issue you either a credit memo or a debit memo depending on what you're doing to your account. So suppose Janice's bank initially cleared a check for $174, but Janice actually wrote the check for $147. So is she going to receive a credit memo or a debit memo once the bank detected its error? The answer is a credit memo, because that will be increasing her account. Okay. EFTs, those are electronic funds transfers. So examples of those would be using your credit card, that it's automatically transferring funds, so you're not literally going to the bank, it's just automatically doing it online. Direct deposit is another type of electronically funded transfer, because you don't have to do anything, it's just monthly or every other week perhaps money is getting deposited. Okay, some vocabulary to know. The payee is the one whom the money on a check is paid to. Payor is who's paying the money, so the bank or the institution where the money is coming from. The maker is the person that's authorizing the payment of the check. Automatic drafts are just regular withdrawals that the owner of account authorizes to be made electronically. So that would be like a direct deposit. Withdrawals would not be deposits. So maybe, for example, my rent check comes out of my account every month on the same day. That would be an automatic draft. Or my Cox internet bill every month. Things like that. And that's very common these days. Okay, check stub, it may be attached to the check. Not always though, mine aren't, but oftentimes businesses will have something attached to the check. so they can write in what happened with the account and how much was withdrawn, so they have kind of a record. Account register is a separate form for recording them. So oftentimes people will do what's called reconciling their account, and they'll look at their register, so that's what they've written down, and they'll compare it to their bank statements. This used to be more common than it is now, since we have online banking. Oftentimes that just keeps your register for you. The only thing it wouldn't include is if you've paid cash for something. Okay, so 4.1 is just a lot of vocabulary about depositing and crediting. 4.2 is about bank statements. So as I just mentioned, there's this thing called reconciliation. So you're trying to make sure that your bank statement matches what you've written down in your register. So you want those to be equal so that you know where all of your money is going, and you know there were no mistakes, nothing was withdrawn from your account that shouldn't have been. The bank statement is what you get every month from the bank, just detailing all of the deposits and credits that they've seen. Service charges, so many of you have probably had a service charge. It's a fee that the bank will charge for maintaining your checking account. So sometimes if you are under $1,000 or you drop below $500, you have some sort of number set up that if you drop below that, they'll take money out because of the type of account you have. Or if a check bounces, that will be another service charge. I've gotten a service charge before because I made too many transfers from accounts, and according to my account, I was only able to transfer 4 times a month or something, and I had done 5 times. So you want to keep an eye on your account so you see if there are service charges going on. Overdraft fees if you take too much out. ATM and foreign transaction fees, so if you go to another country, you're going to get charged an additional fee, things like that. Okay, non-sufficient funds, so that's often called NSF. It's a fee charged when a check is written for where there are not sufficient funds. So if you write a check for $20 and you only have $10 in your account, that's going to show up as NSF. And there will be often 2 penalties associated with that. The bank will charge you a fee, and then whoever was cashing the check, it may bounce, and so then they'll charge an additional fee. Okay, outstanding checks. Those are not checks that have done a great job. Those are checks that have been written but haven't yet been posted, so maybe haven't been cleared. So that might not show up on your account, but you know you've written it, and eventually it will. I was written a check. I used to work at Starbucks, and my last check that came to me was for like 32 cents, I think it was, and I just never cashed it. So the funny part about that, though, is that the stamp to send me this check was 37 cents, so they actually lost some money on that. Anyway, since I never cashed it, it will show up as an outstanding check because they're still waiting on it to be cashed. Now, eventually, after, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that, the check is no longer valid and it'll go away. But anyway, outstanding deposits, that's similar. Deposits that have been made but have not yet been posted. So for example, if you deposit something late at night, oftentimes it won't be posted until the next day during business hours. Okay, so here's an example of a check. So you notice this up here, this is the date that it was written. Now you could also write it 11-14, it doesn't need to be written out in words. And then this is the payee, so who you're paying the money to. Here you're going to write how much the check is for. And I often don't do this 50 over 100. 50 over 100 is saying 50 cents because it's out of 100 cents to make $1. I usually write it as 243.50. The reason a lot of people will write it like this is because sometimes the decimal gets lost in translation, or it's too light and you don't see it, and then people think you're writing a check for $24,000, which is ridiculous, right? And then here you're gonna write out in words what the amount was. Now, one thing I want you to notice it doesn't say 243. You should never put the and until, the and is what's gonna separate your dollars from your cents. So it's just 243, not 243. So 243 and, which tells me now I'm gonna put my cents here, and this I do write like that out of 100. And oftentimes people will put a little line going to the end of this because they don't want anyone to be able to write anything additional in here. Between the 40 and the 3, you'll put a hyphen. So if it was 27, you'd put a hyphen there. No hyphens between the 2 and the 100 though. Notice that it says dollars right here, so you're not going to write $243.50 because the dollars is already there. So it's just 243 and 50 out of $100. Here, this you don't have to fill out, but you can write what you're writing the check for, so that when you're looking back at your, if you have duplicate checks, this will show up, and so you can see, oh, what did I spend $243 on? Oh, that's right, a printer. And then here you'll sign it, which this looks like print instead of cursive, but that's okay. Okay, so this down here, this number is going to be the same on all of your checks because that's the bank's code. So whatever bank is issuing you your checks, so in this case it's Community First Bank, that will be their code. So that will be on all of your checks. This will be your account number. So sometimes when I'm asked for my account number, when I do my taxes or things like that, I will pull out my checkbook and I'll look right here to see my account number. Or if I'm doing a deposit ticket and I don't want to ask the bank for it, I just look it up here. So that will also be the same on all of your checks, as long as your checks are all coming from the same account. And then here, this number will be different. That's the check number. So the next check then will be 3356 in your checkbook, and then 3357, etc. And this is really important because then you can see if you missed a check or if a check is missing, it's easier to identify on your register or on your account statement. This, I rarely see this, but this is the record of the dollar amount. This is the check. This will be printed on the check when the bank processes it, so you won't see this on your checks. That's just maybe something that they kind of stamp on there once they've identified the amount of the check. Okay, so for example, Girl Scout cookies, oh, you gotta love them, right? Every year, I need to stock up, but they never last so long. So before Mr. Joe Tagalong, see what I did there, made a deposit in the amount of $1,500, the balance was $2,087.50. All right, write a check dated today to Girl Scouts in the amount of $31.50 for cookies. So I'm going to write this to Mr. Joe Tagalong. The date today, I don't even know what the date is today, the 3rd, I think? Well, it won't matter because you won't be watching it on the day I'm writing this check. And then here, you'll write the amount, so $31.50. And then here in words, I'll put 30, and then -1. Here's where I put the and because I'm separating the dollars and the cents. So 50 out of 100. And oftentimes I'll put the line there so no one can write anything. Here I'll sign. And then what for? Delicious sugar bombs. Okay. And then here, this is the check stub, so complete the check stub as well. So again, not all of you will have these on your checkbooks, mine doesn't, but if you run a company, oftentimes you will have something like this. So the amount is $31.50 to Joe Tagalong for cookies. delicious sugar bombs, whatever you wanna call them. The date, 4/4/2018. Okay, balance forward, so that's the balance that you had before you wrote this check. So it was originally, in the account, there was 2,087. Now this line right here is separating the dollars and the cents so that you don't have to worry about putting the decimal. So that's 50 cents. Deposits, Joe made it, or I'm sorry, I'm a student, clever, right? Made a deposit of $1,500, so that's 0 cents. And remember, deposits are increasing your account, so you're going to add these together. So I now have $3,587.50. But then the check was written for $31.50, and that's coming out of your account, so you're going to subtract it from this, which would give you $3,556. Okay, and that's writing a check. Just a couple of notes. Okay, there's types of endorsements if you wanted to look through that. Okay, deposit slips. So I showed you an example from Bank of America. Here's another example of what you might see. So up here is where you put all of your cash. Here's where you list all your checks. And then right here it says total from the other side, because sometimes you'll be cashing more than 3 checks. So on the back of this statement, of this deposit slip, will be another spot to list more checks if you can't fit them here. So let's see. We had a deposit of $100 in cash, so currency would be $100. Now, currency could include coins, like let's say it was $100.25. Coins are talking about if you're depositing literal coins. So maybe you bring in those rolls of quarters, something like that. Okay, and you have these checks. You have $87.83, so that goes here. $42.97, $106.32, and $472.13 total from the other side of the deposit slip. So you could have had one check that was $472. You could have had like 4 or 5 checks that added up to $472. But we know we had more checks, and the sum of them was $472.13. Okay, so your total, since this is, you're depositing all of this, you're just going to add all of these together. So we've got 10, 12, 15, 9, 18, 19, 22, 9, that was an 87, right? Yeah, okay, can't read my writing. 9, 11, 17, 19, 9, 13, 20, 3, 4, 8. I hope I did my math right there. So $809.25. Now, less cash received. That's, let's say that you wanted to deposit the money, but you wanted like $50 in cash just to have on you. So you could put that here, and then you just subtract it because you're taking that money out of your deposit that's not getting deposited into your account. So your net deposit, what's actually getting deposited, would be $759.25. And then right here, sign here if cash is received. So if I did take out $50, I'm going to sign right there. If I didn't take any money out, there's no need for a signature. Okay. So here's an example of a bank statement, which has your previous balance, so that's from last month, and then at the end of this statement, so usually the end of the month, this is now how much money you have in your account. And then here's everything that you did. It tells you what they were over here. Here are all the checks that you wrote. So what is the balance at the end of the statement period? That would be the $4,675.50. So when they sent this out, that's how much your ending balance was. On what date did check 717 clear the bank? So if you look down here at your checks, Here are your check numbers. 717 cleared on the 7th of July. Now that doesn't mean it was written on the 7th of July. It just cleared that day. And oftentimes it takes a while for a check to be cleared because maybe you have to send it off to someone and then maybe they don't make it to the bank right away. Okay, so here is another example. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is reconciling. So if you notice, this is information about your bank statement. This is information about your register. So on your bank statement, you may have outstanding deposits. So things that haven't quite cleared yet. You may have outstanding checks. So you have to take those into account when you're looking at your bank statement. In your register, there are things that you may not see, because this is your own information that you've recorded yourself personally. So you might not have included a service charge. In fact, you probably didn't assume that you were going to get charged $5 for something. So that's something you would look on your bank statement and notice, oh, whoops, the bank had a $5 charge. I didn't write that down, so I need to write that down. So that's where this goes. And there could be other adjustments. For example, let's say you earned interest in your bank statement, so that's money working for you. You would need to then add that in here. So the goal is you want whatever shows up on your bank statement, you want your adjusted balance once you've taken into account things that haven't cleared, things that are outstanding. And then you want your register after you've taken into account service charges and interest and other adjustments. You want those to be equal. So oftentimes when you look at your bank statement and you look at your register, the numbers aren't going to match up because of things like outstanding deposits and checks and service charges. So you're trying to take those things into account and see if then your balance is equal. And if so, that means everything's good, you're good to go, you can do this again the next month. So this is something a lot of people do every month just to double check that their accounts match up. And it's a lot easier now with online banking. Okay, so okay, so that I can move these. So Taylor Flowers' bank statement shows a balance of $135.42 and a service charge of $8. Okay, so on the bank statement, got 135. Get rid of that. Okay, we've got $135.40. And again, this little line breaks up the dollars from the cents. Okay, and then let's see if we have any outstanding deposits. So it has a service charge on your statement. Notice the service charge is on the statement, but it's probably not on your register. The account register shows deposits of $112.88 and $235.45 that do not appear on the bank statement. So these are examples right here of outstanding deposits because they did not show up on my bank statement, but I wrote them down in my register. So if you add those two together, you get $348.33. Those are your outstanding deposits. So I can now get my new total here by adding them because those are deposits. So that gives me $483.75. Okay, and then let's see if I have any outstanding checks. Oh, how convenient, it's the next line. So the register shows outstanding checks in the amount of $17.42, as well as $67.90. And it has two cleared checks recorded in the account register as $145.69 and $18.22. Okay, that right there is extra information. Because the checks cleared, they showed up in the account register and they showed up in the deposit, in my bank statement, sorry. So these ones did not show up in my bank statement, although I did write them down in my register. So those are considered outstanding checks. So if I add those two together, it gives me $85.32, which since checks are coming out of my bank statement, out of my account, I need to subtract them. So my new statement balance is $398.43. Okay, now I want to do the process. This is the process of reconciliation. I now want to reconcile my registered, and I'm hoping that when I do that and I take into account all these extra charges, this right here is $398.43. So that way I know everything's good. Okay, so the balance on my register. So right here, the register balance before reconciliation is $406.70. All right. Now, I didn't write down service charges, but it said that I had one here of $8. We don't know what it's for, but they like to charge you money, so get used to it. So $8, now that's going to be subtracting. It tells you to subtract, but if it didn't, you would know that that's money being taken away from you. So you need to subtract to give you your new total of $398.70. Notice that's not the same as $398.43. So hopefully there are some adjustments that will come out in the end. So now, any other adjustments? So when you're looking for adjustments, you're going to look for any interest. You're also going to look for another common issue that arises, and that is checks may be written for a certain amount, but then they're recorded as a different amount, because user error sometimes will see a 34 cents as 43 cents and just accidentally switch the numbers or something like that. So if you notice, the two checks that were cleared were written for and are shown on the statement as $145.96, whoops, and $18.22. Okay, so the $18.22, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. But here, in my register, I wrote it down as $145.69, but it was actually $145.96. So, when you're trying to figure out which one's right, you want to go back and look at your check. But the other thing you can do is usually the statement is going to be more than